17,058,000, I believe that's 810. So what actually got spent based on the pay app that we have right now is 15,767,000. So that's already taken out. That $1 million is already factored in to what's being made available to budget for the 2 elementary schools in the parking lot. So that $1 million that wasn't expended for the fall projects, that's already wrapped into what the budget amounts that are being presented for Carabel and for Vestal.
Where, this chart, sir,
I'm sorry?
where is that amount on here? Is it on here?
Yes, ma'am. So on the first line, the initial contract was $17,058,000. If we look at the first yellow column, the total amount expended actually for that project is $15,767,079. So really the difference between those two is now being wrapped into or included in the budget amounts that are being made available for Vestal and Carabel. Because when you look at the bottom, the bottom amount, you'll scroll down further. See, that 15 million that was at the top is now factored into this 22 million, and then we took the difference between those two and made it available for the projects that are still need to be constructed, which is Vestal and Carabel in the parking lot. And so then that brought our total budget that remains of projects to be constructed. So that bottom number of 42,773,000, you add both of those, and then you get back to your total bond monies. So it is included in those budget amounts that we have for those two schools.
Mr. Chair?
Right.
Okay, so at our last meeting, and thank you for that information too,
Yes,
Mr. Hernandez, I appreciate that. At our last meeting, when we voted on the motion, it was for us to be within budget, from what I recall. Mr. Chair, for us to lower the square footage to remain within our budget, which is the bond, proceeds, the amount that's, and in order for us to be good stewards of our taxpayers' money, I'm seeing here that the only option that we have in order to stay within that budget is option 6. Is that correct, Ms. Azima? Okay, but I'm wondering,
If I may, if I'm not mistaken, that even option 6 isn't within budget.
okay, so which of these
Wait.
options, on all this entire handout, out of all these options, which one of these options was within budget? That's what I'm asking.
Option 6 has our fee included. The numbers that you have from the bond referendum, I don't know if it included our fee. So that's something that finance needs to answer that. I thought it was not. But option 7, it matches up exactly. One of the things, Ms. Costa, is you have contingency on our numbers, which is at the bottom, is about almost $1 million, just for, because these are not builder costs, this is just program budget. So at this point,
Yeah, I think if you look
My
at option
question-
6, take contingency, take what she just mentioned, the architecture fee. That's probably the closest we are to his 19
$19 million.
million. So we would take contingency out. So option 6 is 21.4, take $1 million almost for contingency, so you're at 20.4, another $500,000 for the architect. So you're at about 19 point something. So option 6 is Ms. Caceres, probably we're within $1 million of that budget.
Actually, I'm showing here, option 7 has 19,705,000.
That
We're
has
going,
also
but we're going
good-
super bare bones there.
We're going what?
Bare bones, like very. I don't think that's what staff wants. Staff, as far as what staff want in the classrooms, option 6 is the minimum.
Right, but we asked for the same amount of classrooms, because we wanted those for 4 additional classrooms, which means that we were gonna lower the square footage, and that means that we're maybe gonna kind of skim down on some other items, which means like maybe a little bit on the cafeteria, a little bit on the gym, a little bit maybe even in hallways and things like that, which would be very possible for us to be able to do that square footage.
Richard,
Mr. Chair.
the podium we are at now.
Can you turn it off? it's still on your line as well.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so were you able to hear me okay? Okay. No, it's just your ears. So, from my understanding is that the last time we met as a board in our last meeting was that we were going to keep the 4 classrooms, okay? And then see if we could come down on some square footage so that we could still be within budget and still stay within our bond proceeds or our bond budget. And so that's the option that I'm asking for, and which option is that? That's the one that I want to see.
The option that the board voted and we have worked on is 6. Option 6 is the one. But Ms. Cusser is one.
But that one does not fall within budget, though. That one, from what I'm showing here, is...
No, our big initiative was to bring it down about 10,000 square feet and let her present the numbers. And then at this time, we were supposed to decide. I don't think we made...
Option 7 is the
Yeah.
one that is identical.
Mr. Chair.
Our director was 10,000 less square feet and bring us the numbers.
Bottom line, what's the difference between option 6 and option 7? Well, I mean, I guess
It's number of classrooms. Option number 7 matches up with the assessment facility that was on in 2014. Option 6, Mr. Madrigal has more information, is much more number of classrooms than option 7.
How many more classrooms?
How many is it? I believe it's 10. I apologize, it's 10.
10 extra classrooms?
Yes. So you have more classrooms. That's, in each classroom has minimum 22 students.
At this, Mr. Chair, this time, I think if you could just give me, let me kind of dialogue with Mr. Soto, because him and of course, Kyle and I have walked every campus. We've counted the number of classrooms we currently have, our enrollment, how many more classrooms we needed. And Mr. Soto, right now, currently, and of course, Kyle, you're welcome to join in here in this conversation. You want to get closer over here with Jerry, but I know he's... Mr. Soto, right now at Carroll Bell Elementary, how many classrooms do we currently have? Teachers and classrooms.
We have 33 total classrooms.
Okay.
As Jasmine was describing the base, there's 28 of them, and those extra classrooms, there's about 5. So it'd be 33 total classrooms.
So altogether, so again, to answer my question, I have 28 teachers that need classrooms, so teachers have a classroom at Carroll Bell. And then we also have 5 additional support classrooms at Carroll Bell for a total of 33, which we're talking about the different labs, maybe the reading labs, the REM labs, or those different labs. So altogether at Carroll Bell, we have 33 classrooms.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many classrooms does option 6 have first?
Option 6 has 28 home and then 10 extra, so it'd be 38.
38. So 38. Okay. How many does option 7 have?
25 and 9 of total of 34.
So 34. So both options 6 and 7 have more classrooms than we currently have at Carroll Bell.
Yes, sir.
And then, and one other question. Do these classrooms, are they bigger in square footage than our current classrooms?
They will meet minimum requirements, so they will be bigger.
So so every classroom that we built, whether it be K1, 2, or 3, 4, and 5, they'll be bigger than our current classes we have and be within the square footage that we currently have at Carroll Bell.
I believe so is what I was told.
Okay. Let me jump over to Vestal. How many classrooms do we?
No, we'll get to Vesta. Let's stick to Carroll.
Mr. Udesi, did I answer your question? Yes, sir, you did.
How many classrooms do we have in option 7, sir, did you say?
We have 34 total. So it'd be one more than what we have right now.
But
That would
25,
only be one more classroom than what we have right now.
but the problem is 25 regular classrooms, while they currently have 28 regular classrooms.
Yes, sir.
Say that again, Abundi, Mr. Chair?
We have 28.
We
Well,
currently-
me and Kyle had was 28, and I believe Jasmine says she has 25.
But as far as regular classrooms, it doesn't matter how they're being used.
Regular classrooms.
Full-size classrooms, 28.
So currently, there are 28 full-size classrooms at Carroll Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And if we go with option 7, we would have a total of 34.
25 regular classrooms. The other 9 are instructional, which are a little bit smaller.
The other ones are what, sir?
Smaller classes, like about half the size. They're like
The other classrooms
they're
are going to be a
specialists.
science lab, which is bigger, just, there'll be a science lab, there'll be a music class, an art class, and like an RTI class.
Reading specialists and stuff like that.
Okay.
Let me make a correction, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Zima, can I first get an answer on the total square footage on option 7? If you could tell me what
I
that
think
is?
it's
Because I don't have that on here. I don't show it on here.
It's 62,997. Can you look at the program to make sure I'm not wrong? 876. And the email, Mr. Soto, I may be wrong, but the email that I received about 3:03 p.m. on Friday said 25 existing classroom and 9 instructional support rooms. That's what I received. Existing.
Mr. Bundes?
Yes.
Mr. Bundes, if I'm not mistaken, myself and Ms. Cáceres got this information. We didn't get the information, actually. Further, I believe that this information was sent a little late. Nobody's fault. It's just got here late. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion that we table this item until the next specially called meeting. Do I have a second?
Well, before you table it, Ms. Carrillo hasn't provided any input, so, or Mr. Moreno hasn't really commented either. Anything, you want to add anything before?
Mr.
I
Chair,
accept
I'd
the
like to
motion.
ask a question.
Yeah, I can
Because
go
we
ahead.
don't
and
have a
ask.
second, I'd like to ask a question to Mr. Soto.
Let me get these guys. Mr. Moreno?
Yeah, I mean, just going through what I'm looking at, and I assume people would be doing the same, but what we're looking at in option 6 and what I'm assuming, so knowing the nuances of how a school looks like versus probably some other people in here, and what's been already attested to, the classrooms are much smaller currently than they would be in a new school. I'm looking at the ratio of 22-1 from TEA requirements, and also the numbers that Mr. Madiga gave me earlier about Carabel currently having 478 students, and like what was attributed by Mrs. Zima, the max of 537. That's roughly 60, 70 different kids. We're not really looking at that, reaching that number, I don't think, within the next year or two. And with 28 rooms times 22, we're looking at 616 kids. Versus saying if you're going for the larger option of 32 classrooms, which is option, is that option 1, I believe, or option 5? You're looking at 32 times 22, 700 kids. We're gonna have a lot of unused classrooms. So 28, roughly, if we're looking at the max of 537 divided by 22, we're looking at roughly the use of 25 classrooms, just whole classrooms. We're not looking at the instructional labs or the RTI labs or anything else. And we're not shortchanging the library, we're not shortchanging the cafeteria, and we're not shortchanging the gym. So there would still be room for more students to be added into if we have a growth in enrollment. So to me, it seems like the most plausible, and like we've kind of attributed, there is a little difference in terms of the numbers of 21.4 for option 6. And initially for the 80,000 square feet, we're looking at 23.6. And whenever you break it down from the itemized numbers that Mr. Hernandez provided us, it's still looking at a difference of about maybe 2.3 million, which is a big number. But I think there is ways that we can definitely fine-tooth that. So to me, it just seems more efficient for us to go in that route. I mean, I know that there may be some issues in terms of what the total cost may be, but I think actually the total number at the end would go lower than what's been kind of projected.
Mr. Chair, so,
Let me ask Ms. Carrillo first. Ms. Carrillo, any comments at this time?
Y'all have
Okay. Mr. Oreste.
Ms. Soto, you said that the extra classrooms we had, one was the science lab, which is a lot bigger than a regular classroom, and the other classrooms are smaller, are all smaller than the regular classrooms? Are the extra classrooms that we have right now?
No, it'll be one, they had a base unit in one of them, The other one was a music class.
So they're all regular sized classrooms are bigger?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can, so, and with that, Mr. Abundes, I'd like to make a motion.
But not all of them, because you have to look at page 3. You have your PEAMS, you have your speech, 400, tutoring, reading specialist, 400. He's correct about the science lab, it's a little bit larger. So you have, remember, our elementary, we have our reading, our math interventionist and our reading interventionist, and that's probably some of those instructional rooms as well. So I just wanted to make sure we clarify that.
The size would still suffice for what we're trying to accomplish, and think we're within budget. We're over by about 700,000. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve option 7 so that we can move forward.
You have a motion on the floor right now by Mr. Quesada, which I guess died. Would you like a second?
Yeah, he had the floor earlier when he was going to make a motion. So you want to continue with your motion? What's your motion? I'm sorry.
To table the item into the next specially called meeting.
Do we have a second for this?
Okay.
Okay, if not, the motion dies. Mr. Oreste?
Again, my motion is to approve option 7, and so we can have Mrs. Zima move forward and get the school done.
Okay. We have a motion.
I'll second Mr. U.S. Superintendent.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? But I'm too, like Mr. Moreno. I think what some of us are forgetting, I think the staff, not necessarily Mr. Hernandez because he's the finance guy, but the curriculum people and such want to anticipate growth, especially more in the Schultz area, Bell area, that we might have to be shifting kids over. I think it's good to have the classrooms available if such, because we're still about 2 years away before we move into this anyway. So, and with all these new construction going on back here, so like I said, the option shift is not too far off from our budgeted amount. Because remember that includes a contingency. We're not considering that she reduced the architectural fee. So I won't be supporting this. So
Mr. Abundes?
yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to hear from Mr. Hernandez. It looks like he had something to say.
And I would like to make a comment after Mr. Hernandez also, please.
So, just so that I understand, if the motion, I don't know, I'm not even sure.
It's option 7. That's the one you want.
Okay, so then if it passes, then I'm going to budget 19 million out of the bond monies and the 705, depending how the rest of the presentation goes this evening. If we are over budget on the Vesto or over budget on parking lot, then the difference is going to be coming out of the general fund.
It's going to happen.
Yes, we understand that. Yes, you made that clear last time. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Okay.
I'll second.
No, there's going to be a first and a second. Ms. Cáceres, so we can go ahead and vote.
I believe that there's, on option 7, that there's a way that Mrs. Ima, I don't know where she, okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you, miss, because the podium was blocking, but. Is there any possible way that we can still have all the classrooms? Because with option 7, how many additional classrooms are we going to have?
None?
You will have a total of 34 on option 7. I think one of the issues is, you wanted to say something about the
Yeah.
soft costs.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to say is the difference in the soft cost between what we're presenting tonight and what Mr. Hernandez has, we don't really know because we weren't involved in that. We were looking at the raw construction costs in the facility assessment and the construction costs that we presented tonight. However, there are going to be ways that cost will come down. There's the contingency that Jasmine mentioned on all of our projects. We have been able to bring back the total contingency, for example.
What is the amount that you're charging per square foot based on option 6? If you,
The division.
Yeah, the estimate that we've done is based on the division, not on a square foot, dollars per square foot for a more generalized estimate.
What it does in the program is it has each division, like the walls, the roof, and it adds up. And at the bottom, I don't know what the dollar per square foot comes out to be. but it's below the standard of the market right now. It's lower than what the market is currently. Currently, if you go based on dollar per square foot that the market is anywhere from $238 to $271 a square foot. We're in the much lower end.
So you said 238 to 230,
The market is that what we have received and what the district has received from other school districts, it's anywhere from 238 to 271. From New Braunfels ISD, Northeast, Northside, and other school districts that Carl Blakeney has made some research and investigation.
okay, so Mr. Blakely? Or Mr. Soto, can you tell me what the market is right now, or what you've come up with per square foot?
I'm sorry, ma'am, just doing numbers, ma'am, if you take the square footage of 69,572 on option 6 and you find out the cost, it comes out to about 253, if you're asking for a square foot number. But as she's saying, she doesn't do square footage because of, it depends on where you take the square footage off of. That's what she was trying to explain. But if you want to know the number, it came out to about 253 for option 6, and option 5 comes out, and this is just construction. I'm sure she's a lot better with numbers, but, and then option 5 is like 249 for construction.
Option what, sir? The last one you mentioned was how much?
The option 5 was about 249 a square foot,
Okay.
but
we're
I think you
looking
want
at-
option 7, right?
Right, 6 and 7.
Yeah, I did number 6 at 253. I could do option 7 right now if you give me a second.
Or what's the market? What's the market at right now, currently? Because I know that.
It was between 237 and 250 is what it ranged at, is what the other school districts were letting us know, that they're around 237 to 250.
Okay, thank you. And so that's,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle? Is it? Sir? I haven't done option 7, I just did option 6 quickly when they were asking, but the construction, it came out at 253, but I can do it right now if you want me to figure it out.
and you and Mr. Blakely said it was about 227?
As far as the rates throughout the city, South Texas area, it's anywhere from 235 to really a range from 225 to 265. We're seeing all kinds of numbers. So the averages would be what Jerry was saying, about 230 something to 250, somewhere in that range. We could give you some as low as 225 and some as high as 260.
So would y'all be able to meet us at that average? I mean,
The numbers that we presented fall within that average, as I understand it. And also, you have to remember that the materials that are included in these options, all CMU walls, for example, some of the other features that this was based on could also be looked at as a way to adjust the cost if it comes to that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for option 7. Just want to let you know, option 7 gives you exactly what we have. We only had one room. Somebody made a comment earlier that we were supposed to add a few more rooms, and option 7 is only going to give us one extra room.
okay. And excuse me, I'm asking all these questions because this is the first time I'm looking at all this, okay? I didn't have a chance to review all this information prior to this meeting until I got to this meeting. And so I want to make sure that if I'm going to vote based on what's going to be in the best interest of our community and our taxpayers, because they're the ones who are paying this. And I want to make sure that we're still within budget, we're going to stay within our budget for the bond proceeds that we told our community that we would be using for these schools. Okay, so that's my main concern right now, that we stay within that amount. And that I believe that we can actually do those additional rooms if we come down on some of these other things, like these other buildings, like if we kind of skim down on maybe a small amount on the cafeterias, on the gym, the hallways, or other areas where we may be able to still do those additional rooms.
those are things that could be looked at in the detailed design. I mean,
Okay.
again, this is a program.
And we get our
Well,
contingency.
and that was my understanding in the last board meeting, that we were going to stay within budget. We were still going to do the additional rooms, okay, and cut square footage somewhere else.
Mr. Fagundes?
I think items 5, 6, and 7 reduce some of that. They went from, right? From my
Yes,
understanding?
but options 5, 6, and 7 are not within budget, Mr. Nguyen.
5 and 6 are not. 7 is kind of there. And actually, like I said, option 6, you take the contingency off. You take off what's the buyback that's going to come back at the end. We've been very successful with buyback coming back. So you take it's a 20.4, take the contingency, which is almost $1 million, so you're at about 20 and a half. We've gotten about $1 million of contingency of buyback in the last few projects. Look at the early college high school. So we could be at 19 and a half. Budgeted is 19 million. We're within $500,000.
Mr. Chair.
To get the campus that adds more classroom and not, you would want the cafeteria to be something in this range, not something that just is plain and simple.
Okay, this
Yes,
is my question.
you can make as many faces as you want, but we're not going to delineate between schools. If one school gets something, the other schools, that's always been our model. You know, one school shouldn't get a little bit less than the others. Thank you.
Is there an option for us, right now, do we have to vote on this option, or can we wait to hear the actual options for Vestal after this, and then wait to do to
Okay,
vote?
and we can come back.
Because I think that there's a way that we can do both schools at one time and be able to save about $500,000, and then we can go with that option and still be able to do those classrooms.
Well, we get the contingency back, we're gonna be under budget.
Will you be okay to hold off your Mr. Oresta, your motion till we hear the presentation of Vestal? What do I have to, can I just, Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Booth.
Okay. Can we just kind of hold off to now and then come back and vote it?
Yes. Okay, you want to come back and vote on them all at one time?
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Carrillo?
I would have to agree with Ms. Cáceres regarding we don't have enough time. You know, some of us just got this information today, so we don't have enough time to go through it in order for us to make a good choice, a good decision. So I would like for us to come back.
Well, it's okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
what I'll do too, and give us a chance.
Well, let's before we table it, let's hear Vestal, and if Vestal want to table after Vestal, then we'll consider it at that time. But we do have a motion for option 7 for Carabel. So, Mr. Coy, if you would present Vestal, please.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm going to go through this portion of the slides quite quickly. It's the same thing that we looked at before. It's basically existing conditions, the buildings that are being considered for being retained. Those have been discussed in pretty much in detail. The approach to the square footage for Vestal as far as individual rooms is the same as we described to you in Carol Bell. The classrooms range in size from 900 for specialty classrooms to 8 for first grade in science and 700 for second through fifth. The same approach was taken as to what would be focused on in the design in terms of the systems that would be addressed and the improvements over what you have that would be included in the new campuses. The first option for the Vestal campus is a complete replacement and demolishing all of the buildings. That includes the media center and the Kinder building. 32 classrooms, 12 instructional support classrooms. And again, the enrollment that you've had in the last 2 years is about 537. What is illustrated here is how the campus would work during construction. I think we talked about that in detail last time. We would be glad to answer questions about that, but at the moment I'm not going to take a lot of time to re-explain that. But essentially, the way the construction site would be handled would make certain that the operating school was operating safely and efficiently. The new school would occupy the site to the north that is on Cantrell, opposite of the Vestal frontage, which is the existing school. Ultimately, with this option, with all of the buildings removed, there would be a large play area and the circulation that you see, the drop-off, and other configurations at the top of the screen. Option 1 is 20 million raw construction costs, and with the markups, not markups, but the soft costs added in, it's 23.6. And again, we're at 44 classrooms with this option. Option 2 is retaining the media center and the Kinder building, doing a complete new school on the north side, but renovating these two buildings. This illustrates the two buildings in red, how the construction fence would be laid out, what it would look like once the project was completed and these two buildings were left and renovated for some purpose. They're not being renovated as a portion of the instructional facilities for Vestal. That's all in the new school. These buildings are not taken into consideration. They'll be renovated for something else. We have the same factors coming into play with retaining these buildings. By retaining them, you are having less flexibility in how you organize the site overall, how you handle drainage, how you handle general circulation and safety. Option 2, which is the renovation that we've been talking about, there is a cost to renovate those buildings. That's what's detailed on in this estimate. It comes to $2.19 million. If you add that to the option 1 cost, it's at $25,662 to build the new school, to renovate the two buildings for as yet unknown purpose. You would have 32 classrooms, 12 instructional support classrooms. Option 3 is leaving the media center and the Kinder building untouched, not demolishing them, but not renovating them, having that be done at some point in the future when the district decides what they want to do to them, and building the new campus a complete replacement. The figures here illustrate how what effect that would have on the cost. There is the preliminary estimate for not demolishing the two buildings. The demolishing cost has been deleted or subtracted from this option. It's $87,000. So it's essentially $123,000 total preliminary estimated cost for work to be added to option 1, which comes to $23,700. Again, it's 32 classrooms, 12 instructional support rooms. Option 4 is to replace the campus at minimum TEA standards, same approach that was taken in one of the options for Carroll Bell. The square footage is 76,430, 32 classrooms, 12 instructional, so 44 total. The site plan would be organized essentially as in the other options, which we're illustrating in this site plan. Option 4, cost 19.1 for the estimated construction cost with the soft cost, and we're taking the same reduction of $1 million more or less in the architectural fees. Our fees are reduced, and we're including in the architect's fees some things that are usually additional services. That comes to 22.6 for 44 classrooms. Option 5 looks at the reduced square footage to try to come as close to 70,000 square feet, more or less. We have 69,572, and the building looks something like this. The reduced square footage is the light yellow on the left wing of the new building up above. The cost is at 17.6 for the raw construction cost, or with the add-on soft cost, 20.8. 28 classrooms, 10 instructional support rooms. Sure. What says it, the statement at the bottom? That's a statement from the facilities assessment, which basically says that the probable construction cost did not include soft costs that we listed in the facility assessment study, and it also that it was based on the assumption that design and construction would begin and numbers would be hard within 1 year.
Can you repeat the last part you said? I'm sorry.
Yes, that the design and construction would be started and the dollars would be firm and solid within 1 year from the time of the facility assessment. Otherwise, there would have to be likely adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Option 5, approximately 70,000 square feet. Again, it's a reduced square footage option, total of 38 classrooms, 28 and 10. The cost breakdown, as we had looked at before, 19.1, 22.6.
You know, there's a typo right there.
I'm sorry?
There's a typo on the slide before. Okay, so to make sure.
Bottom line is, as far as the options that Ms. Contreras and you were talking about, Mr. Chair, if you were to take the sequential part out, which is $530,000, and the contingency will be back to that 19 million on option that was 70,000 square feet.
Go? Okay. This brings us to option 6, which is construction cost only at $16,000,004. This is the number that matches the facility assessment from August of 2014. It's 25 classrooms, 9 instructional support classrooms. And as you can see in the illustration of the site plan, the reduction in the square footage is fairly significant. The cost breaks down at 16.1 and 19.1 total cost. Again, it's 25 and 9 classrooms.
Mr. Chair, quick question. On different options, like on 1 and 4, it says existing playground, and on the other one it says new play field. Are those not the same? They're different.
Let me back up to that slide.
Are they in the same location?
They're in the same location.
I think one of them retains the buildings, one of them doesn't.
One of them retains the existing buildings, the two buildings. The buildings in red are retained. In this option, they're not in the other.
Go back.
And the 33 parking lot, is that the one that's there now, the pre-existing one?
Yes, the two that are in red are the buildings that are there now. The median-
I can't see the color in here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But the 33 space parking lot is the one that's existing now.
That's correct.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Cáceres.
Here's option 4 that you're asking about, I believe. Yes, that's a new parking lot.
And the existing one would be taken out?
There is no parking lot. If you're talking about the small parking lot that is on the east side.
Yeah, by the cafeteria, by the gymnasium?
Right.
By the...
There is no, are you talking about this one, Mr. Uresti?
Right, correct.
That's a play area right now.
Okay, that's-
In this,
Okay, because the old one's by the red building down there.
This is an existing play field also that you're currently using for playground. as well.
There's a parking lot right there.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, it
There's
is
a parking lot right
it's a
there.
Parking lot there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is a parking lot. I misspoke.
Okay, all right, that's on all of them.
I have a quick question on option 5, the 20.8 million. Can you go to option 5? Just the cost. Go to the next one, please. So do we, if we're going to retain those 2 buildings, do we still have to add the 123,000 to that?
No,
That's already
Yes.
included in the 120.
yes, this already also has another,
So this adds the 123,000 to save
it's
those.
already included.
It's already included? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Cáceres.
on Friday, sorry about that, my microphone is making loud noise. But Friday, after I went to go visit Gillette, I did also, I wanted to go visit Vestal because I wanted to see the condition of those 2 buildings, the actual existing media center and the existing kinder wing, which from what I could tell were in very good condition, okay? And those buildings are only about maybe 12 years old. And I also looked at the gym, and the gym is in good condition also. And I think that that gym can definitely be used for things in the future, like it has at other schools that we've actually remodeled, like Rayburn. They kept their old gym, and we can use it for things that the community can definitely, you know, or that we can rent them out for, whether it's practice for little dribblers, other things that can be used for festivals or anything else, or even when it's a rainy day and the kids need somewhere to go play. I think that that gym has a lot of good use because it has some good bones on it. The only thing that I saw that might be need some replacement is the floors, but I think that's something that even our own maintenance department would be able to work on. And I think that trying to keep as much as we can when it's still in good condition is definitely a very viable option in order for us to be able to have those buildings for our community and for or really for our students and our kids in the community. And I think that we need to have an option where we can actually do that also.
Would that be a big problem, keeping that extra gym? Because that would actually save us, because that's less demolition cost.
We can have the architect, once you decide which option, go back and keep that. That's not, it's your prerogative. If you want to keep it, we'll.
Mr. Madrigal, do you have any objections
We
to
were
that, or
told not
Mr.
to
Soto?
keep it.
Just looking at the map, I mean, that little section, it's a new play area, but it's going to be fenced off in that area anyway. Really, the extra area is going to be on this side of the fence.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Madrigal, your comments on that?
one comment that I will make is this. I know that at one time, this same conversation was brought up with the Stem Early College High School and the back existing gym. And today, with the help of our construction, our department and things, we made that building look like it's part of the original campus. The school, we're glad that today that we kept that building and we didn't demo it. My only concern about the Vestal is, of course, is the idea that the new infrastructure, utilities and sanitaries and water lines and gas lines are going to be brought in is going to be an option to the district. But I think with the amount of rentals and things that we have district-wide, it would be in the best interest in long term to keep those. But I can see where we are going to have to maybe have to add some dollars to those because of how the new construction will bring in the utilities and how they're going to tie from the existing ones we cut off from the current ones to the new ones, how that's going to work out, which I don't know till the architects and civil and them wrap that up. Will I have a better idea? But if we can save them and it wouldn't be an additional surplus of a cost where it would be dramatic to us, it would be in the best interest because we do have a number of uses in the future for rentals and things like that.
Ms. Cáceres, so I think we're okay with that. Just we have to figure out, you want option 5 or 6? It seems like those are the two more popular ones this
But
evening.
5 and 6 don't have the gym on there, so we would have to find out what that cost is. I'm going to make a motion at this time, sir. I'm going to motion, because this is the first time I see this information, okay? Sorry. I'm going to go back to the motion that Mr. Quesada made for us to table these items before we make a decision. And I really, really would like to recommend that my board members, my cohorts here, try to take the time to go walk these campuses, especially Vestal, so you can see and Mrs. Carrillo, you're probably familiar with those buildings because that's where your son goes to school. I don't know if you agree with me, but I know that those two buildings are in very good condition. They're usable, and I think that the gym is in very good condition and it's usable. And I think that there's a way that we can come within budget. So my motion is going to be for us to narrow down these options, Ms. Azima, because this is very confusing, to be honest with you, okay? There's so many options here. It's mind-boggling, honestly. There's too many options, okay? I would like to see an option for Carol Bell and an option for Vestal within budget with the additional classrooms.
That's fine, but I want to see the options that we were looking as well, not just your single option. So I think for the most part, I think we're in agreement with option 5 and 6 for both schools. So if we want to narrow it down to that point, option 6 is where we're within the 19 million, and then option 5, we're within about $1 million of that 19 million once you take the contingency, and that's not even including the cost savings. So I'm okay with it. I do want option 5 brought back on both